So, hi, welcome back to Into the Cina-Verse, and this is part 3 of the Batman series. It is titled Was the Riddler the Best Option for the Batman? In the previous video, in part 2, if you haven't seen that bit,
Go watch
click
it.
the link in the description below. So, let's start. Was the Riddler the best option for the Batman?
The only Riddler that we see in films, I believe the most famous one would be the Jim Carrey Riddler.
Yeah, he was the only film live action because and then there was the live action series in Gotham
Yeah?
and the 1966 TV series.
Exactly. From what I see who Riddler is, how do you say, comedic, funny, in a way cheerful but chaotic and psychopathic way. So that's my take of who Riddler is. But in this film, we see the total opposite. We see him as an actual psychopath, even the way his face mask is like literally
Like a classic serial killer.
something like you see in Saw or like Friday the 13th kind of guy. That dark, scary, horror kind of feeling. And even his riddles, they're not very hard riddles, they're not that difficult to follow.
There were some of the riddles that I figured out on the spot when we were watching the film.
yeah.
Like the first one.
The first one was
What
easy.
when does a dead man...
The first riddle was, what does a liar do when he's dead?
He lies still. That was a very easy riddle. I figured it out on the spot. And then I think there were like other riddles that obviously I didn't get on the spot.
If you think about it, if you keep thinking or trying to figure it out, you will figure it out. They're not that difficult to the point of like you need to keep watching it and watching it until you figure it out, or you need to search.
Yeah, so like for example, when there was that riddle or reference.
The riddle of El Rata Alada. I'm sorry for my
however you say it.
pronunciation.
Like and then Penguin starts shouting, am I the only one who knows the difference between L and La? Like, alright, I had Spanish O level. I know the difference between L and La, but I didn't understand what I was trying to say. A rat with wings. The first thing that came to my mind is bat.
I thought it was Batman at first, but
I
yeah.
think we got a little sidetracked with all of this, but fine. So let's get back to Matt Reeves' take on Riddler. Matt Reeves, as I said time and time again, he's a realist. He has a sense of realism that he takes with him on to his films. And when he came to write Riddler as the main antagonist in the Batman, he took a lot of influence from the Zodiac Killer. There was a heavy sense of realism, and because of that realism, the audience can relate very much to the characters in the film, especially to the antagonist Riddler, because of his grounded sense. The thing is with Batman's villains is when you have these grounded villains like Joker, Penguin, Riddler, if you use them well, like Matt Reeves has done with the Riddler, you can bring out a very well done villain in the film. That before, even when we were talking about Robert Pattinson, that it all comes down to Matt Reeves' directorial abilities and his grounded realism. And in the previous video, Robert Pattinson's acting ability.
Yeah.
But now that we're dealing with the Riddler, it comes down to also Paul Dano's acting ability.
Yeah.
And we must not forget, Paul Dano is a brilliant actor.
So what's his background, acting background?
So
Because
I
I don't
didn't
know.
see a lot of his films, but I saw a film of his that I will never forget. It's called Prisoners. Have you ever seen it?
I didn't see it, but I know about
It's a
it.
psychological thriller.
Yeah,
It came out in, I think, 2013. There's Hugh
Okay.
Jackman in it.
Okay,
There's Viola Davis as well.
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal, he's the lead detective in the film. And Paul Dano, he has a thing with these sort of characters because he plays psychotic characters. And in Prisoners, he is a psychotic character. And I saw it when it came out in 2013 or 2014 in summer. I was 16 years old. Tipo, and like I was scared of him in the film. He was weird. He was psychotic in the film, and he did it brilliantly. So when I was seeing him now as the Riddler, as certain scenes, I saw him back as that character in Prisoners. But as the
Riddler.
Riddler. He did a fantastic job, especially when he was being interrogated by Batman, and then he started singing Ave Maria.
I don't really like when composers use certain songs for films. But the only way I will accept songs in films if you take the song and you sort of remake it for the film. So you can take the riffs, the theme songs or whatever. And Ave Maria, I think would be the best classical piece for the Riddler. You see this elegance in him, I see this elegance in him that Ave Maria sort of reflects.
What we're saying, because he doesn't become that physical. He says it when he's being interrogated by Batman. He thinks right after, when we think that he knows who Batman is. So there's that sort of suspense because he starts saying Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne. And obviously Batman, Bruce Wayne, starts to think that he knows who he is. He doesn't. But he starts to think, Riddler, now I'm saying, that he and Batman are partners, that they're working together, that they're a perfect piece, because Riddler, he has everything planned out. He has this brilliant mind.
But that's the only thing that he didn't work out well.
But, Batman, he is smart as well, but he has the strength. He has the body that Riddler doesn't. So, the kind of brain and bronze kind of, a perfect match, which he thought that they were. He probably took down God how many criminals in his first 2 years that we obviously haven't seen.
Yeah.
He probably took down some minor villains as well.
Yeah.
That weren't maybe full-on villains at that time.
Yeah.
Maybe they become those villains because Batman caught them.
Yeah.
Maybe, we don't know. But this is Batman's first major villain. He is the villain that put Batman to the test. Not only physically, but, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, intellectually. He tested him. And this is, I think this is why Riddler was the best first major villain for at least Matt Reeves' planned trilogy. It's because he's the base where we can see Batman's evolution. Kind of, because we know from this point on that both Bruce Wayne, but especially Batman, will evolve. He will get better intellectually. He has to get better in order to beat his villains. Because he lost. Riddler won. Alright, Riddler got arrested. He's in Arkham.
His plan went through.
Batman lost. We're going to see Batman train himself to become the Batman he knows he needs to be, and that Gotham needs him to be.
And it's very important that in these films, like the Batman, you need a really good villain to sort of contrast Batman.
Moving on to, I think we've said enough about Riddler. There were two other villains that made it into the film. So we saw Penguin, Colin Farrell, John Turturro, I think his name is, Carmine Falcone. Let's start off with Falcone, because we saw him in Batman Begins. We only see him a little, and he's this major kingpin. He's the mayor of Gotham City. He controls everything. Carmine Falcone in the Batman, the character got a little bit of justice. We got to see a little bit more of him, what he's truly capable of, because he is this green character.
Yeah.
That he does everything for power. He controls everything.
Yeah.
And we saw that, and John Turturro was a fantastic actor, and I think he did bring a good take on who Carmine Falcone is. Colin Farrell, brilliant actor, and he did a fantastic job. His makeup took 4 hours.
Really?
I got to know, yeah. Penguin, I think it was a great take on Penguin to put him as a supporting villain. Now that he's going to get his own TV series, I think on HBO, and Colin Farrell is going to reprise his role as Penguin. The thing that I really loved about Penguin in this film is we do see him as this power-hungry man. He was Carmine Falcone's right hand, but he wanted to be the kingpin of Gotham, and that's what he is. Out of all of Batman's villains, he's the only one that is considered sane, that he knows what he's doing. But yeah, and one of my favorite scenes in the Batman is when
They arrested Falcone.
not that. When Batman is in his Batmobile and he's raving the engine and the turbo blaster from
the
behind,
car scene.
and he's looking at but first Penguin is still outside. He's in front of the car, and there's this close up on Penguin's face. He's like he's taking it all in,
right,
kind of like, and Batman is raving the engine. It's like he's challenging Penguin. This is where we see Batman's intelligence when it comes, because it's a sign that he studied Penguin, he studied Oswald, because Oswald has always been jealous of everyone's that is either bigger than him or people that think that they are bigger than him. He went into his mind every time he was raving the engine. You see the look on his face. He's clenching his teeth, and he does look like a penguin. And he gets into his car. He forgets about the money.
He just drives.
His henchman tells him, "What are you doing about? You're forgetting the money and stuff." And he drives, and Batman drives after him. And that's what I love about this Batman. He goes into their psychology. He kind of plays mind games with them. I think we'll see a better side, not a better side, like a better side to Penguin's story, how his story is going to keep on relating to the Batman.
I think we don't see in the other Batman films from these supporting villains is that we get a bit more insight to Bruce's parents, especially his father, who was going for mayor, and we find this dark secret that Bruce finds, trying to sort of be kind of a corrupt politician. But then we find out that he was doing it for a good reason.
Just trying to protect his wife. I think that brings an end to this part. Was the Riddler the best option for the Batman? Stay tuned for the next part, part 4, which is titled The Birth of the Bat Family. Stay tuned.